Have you ever walked away from a moment in life, a job you didn't get, a relationship that ended, an opportunity that slipped through your fingers, and felt that sinking weight in your chest? That voice in your head whispering, "You failed. You weren't enough." Have you ever clung so tightly to something, a dream, a possession, a version of yourself, that losing it felt like losing you? Maybe you're surrounded by a world that screams you must win at all costs, that success is everything, that letting go is weakness, and maybe deep down you've believed it, that to lose is to diminish, that to fail is to disappear. But what if I told you that all of this is a lie? That true freedom, real, unshakable freedom, doesn't come from winning, but from learning. To lose. Michel de Montaigne, one of history's wisest and most human thinkers, saw something most of us miss. Those who fear loss are already imprisoned. Those who clutch desperately at control are the least free. The world teaches us to fight, to hold on, to define ourselves by what we have. But Montaigne proposed something radical, something liberating. To lose is not to be defeated. To lose is to become free. This video is for you who feels crushed by rejection, who carries the weight of what didn't work out, who is tired of chasing a life that feels like a race you can never win. Perhaps you've mistaken holding on for strength, but today I'll show you that letting go can be your greatest power. That true victory doesn't come from having it all, but from needing nothing. Get ready to see loss in a new light, not as an end, but as a beginning. Let's dive into Montaigne's philosophy and discover how to find freedom by embracing the art of losing. Why do we fear losing so much? Why does a single failure, a missed chance, a broken plan feel like it defines us? Because we've been taught that life is a ledger, and every loss is a debt we owe to our worth. We're surrounded by voices, society, social media, even our own minds, that tell us we must accumulate more achievements, more status, more things. And when we lose, it feels like we've been robbed of who we are. But Montaigne, a man who lived through war, plague, and personal tragedy, saw this differently. He believed that our fear of loss is not just a weakness, it's a cage. When we cling to things, whether it's a job, a reputation, or even an idea of ourselves, we give them power over us. We become their prisoners. The more we try to hold on, the more we lose ourselves. Montaigne's insight was simple but revolutionary. Loss is not the enemy, it's the teacher. Every time you lose something, you're given a chance to see what truly matters. Every time you let go, you reclaim a piece of your freedom. Loss strips away the illusions we hide behind, the need to be perfect, the need to be seen, the need to control. And in that raw, vulnerable space, something extraordinary happens. You begin to live for yourself, not for what you own or what others think. This video is for anyone who's ever felt trapped by the fear of failing, who's held on to something long past its time, who's exhausted from trying to prove they're enough. Today I'll show you how to turn loss into liberation, how to find strength not in what you keep, but in what you release. Let's explore why we're so afraid to lose and how Montaigne's philosophy can set us free. Why does losing hurt so much? Why does letting go feel like betraying ourselves? Montaigne would say it's because we've tied our identity to things that were never truly ours. Deep down, we believe that our value lies in what we possess, our titles, our relationships, our plans. And when those things slip away, we feel like we're slipping away too. Montaigne, who spent his life reflecting on what it means to be human, saw this as a symptom of a deeper flaw, our obsession with control. He wrote that most of us live as if we could dictate the terms of life, as if we could demand permanence in a world that is always changing. But life, Montaigne knew, is a river. It flows, it shifts, it takes things away. And the more we fight that current, the more we drown. He called this the tyranny of desire, the endless craving to have, to win, to be right. When we chase these things, we're not seeking happiness, we're seeking safety. We think that if we just hold on tightly enough, we'll never have to face the uncertainty of who we are without them. But Montaigne argued that this is where we go wrong. The need to win, to possess, to avoid loss, it's not strength, it's fear. True strength, he said, lies in humility. Not the humility of bowing down, but the humility of accepting that you cannot control everything. that you don't need to. That loss is not a punishment, it's a gift. It's the moment when life asks, can you stand on your own even when the ground shifts beneath you? Montaigne believed that when you learn to lose, when you let go of what no longer serves you, you're not diminishing, you're expanding, you're stepping into a freedom most people never find. But if loss is so liberating, why do we resist it? Why do we fight so hard to keep what's slipping away? The answer lies not just in philosophy, but in the way our minds are wired. Let's dive deeper into Montaigne's ideas and uncover how to break free from the fear of losing. Montaigne didn't write for those who want to conquer the world. He wrote for those who want to conquer themselves. In his essays, he described a kind of person, rare, grounded, unshakable, who finds freedom not by winning, but by losing gracefully. This person doesn't cling to what life takes away. They don't crumble when plans fail. They don't measure their worth by what they have. They are free because they've learned to let go. Let's call this figure the free spirit. The free spirit doesn't fear loss because they know that nothing truly belongs to them. Not their possessions, not their status, not even their time. Instead of fighting to keep these things, they embrace their impermanence. They see every loss as a chance to return to what's essential, their own heart, their own truth. The free spirit's power lies in their humility. Not a loud, boastful humility, but a quiet acceptance that life is bigger than them. They don't need to prove anything, not to others, not to themselves. When they lose a job, a love, a dream, they don't see it as failure. They see it as clarity. A moment to ask, what am I still carrying that I no longer need? This humility makes them untouchable. While others scramble to protect their egos, the free spirit stands still. They don't argue to be right. They don't cling to what's gone. Their presence alone speaks of a strength that doesn't need validation. And that strength is unsettling. It challenges everyone around them. Because in a world obsessed with winning, nothing is more radical than someone who's free to lose. Montaigne's free spirit isn't perfect. They're human, flawed, just like you and me. But they've learned something most haven't. That loss is not the end of the story. It's the beginning of freedom. Let's explore why loss feels so threatening and how it can become your greatest ally. Let's get to the heart of it. Why does losing feel so personal? Why does letting go feel like giving up? Psychology tells us it's because our brains are wired to avoid loss. It's called loss aversion. The idea that losing something hurts more than gaining something feels good. When you lose a chance, a relationship, or even an argument, your brain reacts as if it's under attack. Your heart races, your stomach tightens, and that ancient survival instinct kicks in, screaming, "Hold on, don't let go!" But Montaigne saw through this. He knew that this fear isn't just biology, it's a story we tell ourselves. We believe that what we lose defines us, that it leaves a hole others will judge. And so we cling not just to things but to the idea of who we're supposed to be, the successful one, the loved one, the one who never fails. Here's where it gets deeper. When you refuse to let go, you're not just fighting for what's gone, you're fighting against yourself. Every time you cling to a grudge, a regret, or an outdated dream, you're chaining yourself to a version of you that no longer exists. Montaigne called this a kind of arrogance, the belief that we can outsmart life's natural rhythm. But life doesn't work that way. It moves, it changes, and it asks us to move too. Now here's the twist. Loss doesn't just hurt, it reveals. When you lose something, you're forced to face what's left. And what's left is you. Not the titles, not the possessions, not the applause, just you. And for most people, that's terrifying. Why? Because we've spent so long hiding behind what we have that we don't know who we are without it. Vestigial structures, pieces of our evolutionary past that no longer serve a purpose, begin to stir. The amygdala, that primal alarm system, lights up, urging us to fight or flee. But Montaigne would say, don't fight, observe. Let the fear pass through you and see what it's trying to teach. Loss in this sense is a mirror. It reflects back the stories we've told ourselves about who we are, what we deserve, what we must protect. And most of those stories, Montaigne knew, are lies. They're fragile illusions we've built to feel safe in a world that's never promised safety. When you lose something, a promotion you worked for, a friendship you cherished, a plan you believed in, you're not just losing the thing itself. You're losing the story you tied to it. The story that said, "This will make me whole." And that's where the real pain comes from. Not the loss, but the shattering of the illusion. Montaigne saw this moment as sacred. When loss strips you bare, it's not a punishment. It's an invitation. An invitation to meet yourself, maybe for the first time. To ask, who am I when no one's watching? What do I love when nothing's promised? When you embrace that question, something shifts. Loss stops being a thief and becomes a guide. It shows you what you've been carrying and what you can finally put down. But there's more to this than personal reflection. Loss also reveals how others react to it. Think about the people around you, your boss, your friends, your family. When you lose something, their responses show their values. Some will pity you, treating your loss as proof of your weakness. Others will distance themselves, afraid your failure might rub off. But a rare few will sit with you, not trying to fix it, but simply being there. Montaigne would say these are the ones who matter. Loss doesn't just clarify your own heart, it sorts the people in your life, showing you who's worth keeping. Let's take this further. Loss isn't just personal, it's universal. Every culture, every era grapples with it. Ancient Stoics, like Seneca, who Montaigne admired, taught that we should rehearse loss daily, imagining our possessions gone, our loved ones absent, our plans undone. Why? Not to torment ourselves, but to prepare, to remind ourselves that nothing is truly ours, not even our next breath. Montaigne took this idea and made it gentler, more human. He didn't demand we harden ourselves against loss, but that we soften toward it, that we see it as part of life's rhythm, not a mistake to be fixed. So how do you do it? How do you stop fearing loss and start embracing it? How do you turn letting go into a source of power? Montaigne's philosophy gives us a roadmap, and I'm going to break it down into 4 tools, 4 ways to make loss your ally, not your enemy. These aren't just ideas, they're weapons for freedom. First tool, accept the impermanence. The moment you feel that urge to cling to a plan, a person, an outcome, pause. Remind yourself that nothing lasts forever. Not your victories, not your failures, not even you. This isn't depressing, it's liberating. When you accept that everything is temporary, you stop giving it power over you. Try this. The next time you're afraid to lose something, say to yourself, "This too will pass." Watch how it softens the grip of fear. Second tool, reframe the loss. Instead of seeing loss as failure, see it as pruning. Every time life takes something away, it's clearing space for something new, not necessarily something better, but something truer. Ask yourself, what is this loss teaching me? What am I free to do now? Maybe losing that job means you can finally chase a dream you've buried for years, like starting a small business or writing that book. Maybe losing that relationship means you can rediscover your own voice, your own desires. Loss is never just an end, it's a redirection. Third tool, practice humility. Montaigne said that true wisdom is knowing how little you control. When you lose, a scholarship, a competition, a chance, don't fight to prove you're still enough. Instead, lean into the humility of not having all the answers. This doesn't mean giving up, it means trusting that you're stronger than what you've lost. Try this. The next time you face rejection, don't rush to fill the void with excuses or distractions. Sit with it. Let it remind you that you're human, and that's enough. Fourth tool, let go intentionally. This is the hardest, but most powerful. Choose to release something before life forces you to. It could be a grudge against someone who betrayed you, an old goal that no longer lights you up, or even a belief about who you should be, like the idea that you must always be the best. Write it down, say it out loud, I'm letting this go. This act of surrender isn't weakness, it's courage. It's you deciding that your freedom matters more than your attachments. These tools aren't easy. They go against every instinct. To fight, to hold on, to win. But every time you use them, you're rewriting the story of loss. You're choosing freedom over fear. And that's where Montaigne's genius lies, not in avoiding loss, but in making it your teacher. Let's pause for a moment and ground this in real life. Imagine you're at a family gathering and someone, maybe an uncle or a cousin, brings up a recent setback you faced, like a project that didn't pan out. They say something cutting like, well, maybe you aimed too high. Your first instinct is to defend yourself, to list your accomplishments to prove you're not a failure. But what if instead you smiled and said, maybe I'm learning? That simple act of humility, of refusing to cling to your pride, shifts the room. It's not weakness, it's power. You've chosen freedom over their judgment, or picture. You've spent years building a career, climbing the ladder, only to be passed over for a promotion you were sure was yours. The anger burns. You want to confront your boss, demand answers, reclaim your worth. But Montaigne would ask, what are you really fighting for? The title, the approval, or something deeper? What if you took a step back, accepted the loss, and asked, what do I want now? Maybe you realized the job was draining you, pulling you away from what truly matters, your family, your health, your creativity. That loss becomes a wake-up call, a chance to realign your life. These examples show us something critical. Loss isn't abstract. It's woven into the fabric of our days, missed deadlines, faded friendships, plans that unravel. And every one of those moments is a chance to practice Montaigne's art of losing, to let go with intention, not resentment, to find freedom in the space left behind. But there's a darker truth we need to face. Sometimes holding on isn't strength, it's a trap. Have you ever noticed how you cling to things that hurt you? A toxic relationship you can't leave, where every fight feels like a test of your worth. A dream that's draining you, like chasing a perfect body, or a flawless career, always one step out of reach. Say a version of yourself you've outgrown, maybe the carefree rebel you were at 20, or the people-pleaser you became to keep the peace. You tell yourself it's loyalty, it's perseverance, it's you. But what if it's fear? Montaigne saw this clearly. When you refuse to let go, you're not protecting yourself, you're betraying yourself. You're choosing the comfort of the familiar over the freedom of the unknown. And worse, you're letting others, society, expectations, even your own doubts, define what you're worth. Think about it. How many times have you stayed in a situation because you were afraid of what losing it would say about you? Maybe you kept a friendship that felt one-sided because letting go would mean admitting you weren't valued. Maybe you held on to a failing business, pouring in money and time, because closing it felt like admitting defeat. How many times have you gripped anger, pride, or the need to be right because releasing it seemed like surrender? This isn't strength, it's submission. Submission to a world that tells you your value lies in what you can keep. Montaigne called this the slavery of custom, living by rules you didn't choose, chasing things you don't need, all because you're afraid to lose. But here's the truth. Every time you hold on to what no longer serves you, you're giving away your power. You're letting loss control you instead of you controlling it. Montaigne, though, saw through this cultural noise. He lived in a time of upheaval, political strife, religious wars, disease, and he knew that life's only constant was change. He didn't trust grand narratives of triumph. He trusted the quiet truths of human experience. And one of those truths is that loss is universal. No one escapes it, not the king, not the peasant, not you. The question isn't whether you'll lose, but how you'll meet it when you do. This brings us to a crucial point. Loss isn't just about big moments, divorces, bankruptcies, deaths. It's in the small things too. The conversation you meant to have but didn't, the hobby you abandoned because life got busy, the confidence you lost somewhere along the way. These micro losses pile up, and if you don't face them, they harden into something heavier. Regret, resentment, a life unlived. Montaigne's antidote to this is awareness. He urged us to examine our lives, to question what we're holding on to and why. Are you clinging to a memory of who you were, a star student, a fearless adventurer, because you're afraid you'll never be that person again? Are you holding onto a goal, like owning a big house or hitting a certain salary, because you think it'll prove you've made it? Awareness is the first step to freedom. It lets you see the chains you've forged and gives you the courage to break them. Let's make this practical again. Suppose you're stuck in a cycle of comparing yourself to others, maybe a colleague who's always one step ahead, or a friend whose life looks flawless online. Every time you see their wins, you feel your losses more sharply. You didn't get the raise they did. Your vacation wasn't as glamorous. Montaigne would say, stop measuring yourself against their ledger. Their wins don't diminish you, but your refusal to let go of the comparison does. Try this. For one day, notice every time you compare yourself. Write it down, then ask, what would I do if I didn't care about matching them? That question is a spark. It lights the way to freedom. Or consider a loss that's still raw, maybe a falling out with someone you loved. You replay the fight, the words you can't take back, the silence that followed. You want to fix it, to rewind time, to make it right. But Montaigne would ask, what are you really holding on to? The person, or the idea of what you had? Sometimes letting go doesn't mean cutting them out forever. It means releasing the need to control the outcome. It means trusting that life will bring what's meant to stay and what's not was never yours to keep. These practices, awareness, questioning, releasing, are how you build the free spirit Montaigne described. But building that spirit takes time and it takes failure. You'll try to let go and find yourself clinging again. You'll aim for humility and stumble into pride. That's okay. Montaigne wasn't a saint. He was a man who doubted himself, who wrestled with his own fears. What made him wise was his willingness to keep learning, to keep losing, to keep starting over. Now let's broaden the lens. Loss doesn't just shape individuals, it shapes societies. Think about history, empires. Fall, revolutions fade, ideals shift. The Roman Empire collapsed, but its loss gave way to new cultures. The Industrial Revolution disrupted entire ways of life, but it opened doors to innovation. Loss, on a grand scale, is a catalyst. It forces humanity to let go of what's comfortable and reach for what's possible. Yet societies, like people, resist this. Look at how we cling to outdated systems. Economies that widen inequality, traditions that stifle progress, beliefs that divide us. Montaigne would challenge us to ask, what are we afraid of losing? Stability, identity, control, and what could we gain by letting go? A fairer world, a truer one? His philosophy isn't just personal, it's a call to rethink how we live together. This brings us to a paradox. Loss is both inevitable and optional. It's inevitable because life is change. No one can stop time, entropy, or fate. But it's optional because you choose how to meet it. You can fight loss, clawing at what's slipping away and end up imprisoned by your own resistance. Or you can embrace it, letting go with grace and find freedom in the space it leaves behind. Montaigne's free spirit chooses the second path, not because it's easier, but because it's truer. So let's add another layer to our tools, because living this philosophy demands more than mindset. It demands habits, rituals, a way of being. Let's call these the pillars of the free spirit, 4 practices to anchor you when loss comes calling. First pillar, daily reflection. Take 5 minutes each night to ask, what did I lose today and what did it teach me? Maybe you lost your temper in traffic. What does that show you about your patience? Maybe you lost an hour to scrolling online. What does that say about your priorities? This isn't about guilt, it's about clarity. Reflection turns loss into wisdom. Second pillar, gratitude for what remains. Loss blinds us to what we still have. After a setback, say a project that flopped, list 3 things you're grateful for. Maybe it's your health, a friend who listened, or the chance to try again. Gratitude doesn't erase loss, it balances it. It reminds you that life is never empty, even when it feels that way. Third pillar, small acts of release. Every week, let go of something tangible, a cluttered drawer, an old letter, a habit like checking your phone first thing in the morning. These acts train your muscle of detachment. They show you that letting go doesn't diminish you, it lightens you. Fourth pillar, connection over control. Loss isolates us, whispering that we're alone in our pain. Fight that lie by reaching out, not to fix the loss, but to share it. Call a friend, join a group, volunteer. Connection reminds you that your worth isn't in what you've lost, but in what you give. These pillars aren't magic. They're work. They ask you to show up day after day, choosing freedom over fear. But every time you do, you're stepping closer to Montaigne's free spirit. You're becoming someone who doesn't just survive loss, but thrives through it. We've reached the final stretch, and here's what I need you to carry forward. Loss is not your enemy. It's your liberation. Montaigne didn't write for those who want to avoid pain. He wrote for those who want to transcend it. The free spirit he described isn't someone who never loses. It's someone who loses and keeps walking. Someone who lets go and finds themselves stronger. Someone who knows that freedom begins the moment you stop being afraid. Look at your life. How many times have you held on out of fear? A grudge that's festered for years, poisoning your peace. A career that defines you, but no longer fulfills you? A story about yourself, maybe that you're not enough or that you must be perfect, that's kept you small. Enough. Montaigne would say that living this way is a betrayal of everything you could be. From today on, your relationship with loss needs to change. It needs to stop being a wound and become a doorway. A doorway to a life where you're not chained to what you have, but lifted by what you're free to become. This takes courage. The courage to let go, to lose, to stand in the uncertainty and say, I am enough. Do you have that courage? Then prove it. Comment below. I choose the freedom that comes with loss. Not for me, but for you. So you can declare to the world and to yourself that you're done living in fear. And don't stop here. The next video will take you even deeper, showing you how to live Montaigne's philosophy every day with practical steps to build a life of freedom and purpose. Watch it, not because I'm asking, but because you deserve to be free. Remember this, the world will tell you to win at all costs, but the free spirit knows that true power lies in losing and rising anyway. The weak cling, the strong let go, the wise choose when.